Hey everyone, Michael here. A couple things to address. First of all, the cancer has grown. I've had 4 rounds of extremely intensive chemotherapy. That chemotherapy has not been effective. Everything has grown. I have had minimal growth in some areas, and I have had more significant growth on a primary tumor. For those of you that don't know, I have been diagnosed with an extremely rare cancer called adrenocortical carcinoma, which is a tumor that has grown on my left adrenal gland and then has spread metastatically into other areas of the lymph nodes around the lungs and my mediastinum, which is in between the lungs. And so 4 rounds of chemotherapy have perhaps slowed things down a little, but things have continued to grow. So standard chemotherapy has not been working. So we have decided to switch off of chemotherapy, at least that type of chemotherapy, and we have went with an off-label medication which is used to treat brain cancer called temozolomide, I believe is what it's called. And this being off-label has been proven to be somewhat effective in treating adrenocortical carcinoma, and we have switched plans. The side effects are not supposed to be as bad as the standard chemotherapy that I was on, and I have begun that this week. And so we'll see what happens with this sort of second option, as it were, and as this video goes on, I will continue to explain why this is the current option that we have and why it is still chemotherapy. But I have other things that I want to address. As you saw the title of the video, I've received a lot of comments, and I would say some of them are, the overwhelming majority of comments that I receive on the channel, of course, are overwhelmingly positive. They are encouraging. I see many of you lifting my condition, my family, in your prayers, and believe me, I do believe prayers are powerful and effective, and sometimes are really the best defense against any type of illness or disease or life-altering situation. So I want you to know that I do covet those prayers. They are important to me. And I believe that one of the reasons I've been able to handle things so well is a result of those prayers. And so I really appreciate those prayers. Now, on to some other business. I've been thinking about how do I address what I'm about to say. Because in the spirit of grace, I do not want to be condemning of certain people's views. And I don't want to seem as though I'm being cynical or sarcastic towards some of you who I believe are genuinely concerned and make comments because you are genuinely concerned. And you want me to live, you want other people who have cancers and diseases to thrive, and this is why you make some of the comments that you make. But to be honest with you, there are some of them I think that I really need to discuss through as I've thought through them. And as I've contemplated and genuinely researched many of the ideas that many of you have commented on, it's led me sort of down this path where I have to navigate what I believe is the best treatment options given the type of cancer that I have and the situation and health and everything that I'm in right now. Now, some of you are going to make comments before you even get 30 seconds into the video. And I would ask you to try to watch the majority, if not all of this video, so that you can really get a comprehensive view of what it is exactly what I'm trying to say. Now, for some of you, that's like telling a goat not to eat brambles. You're going to be chomping at the bit to make some kind of a comment down there, and it's going to be more of the unsolicited advice, ironically, that I'm talking about in this video. But there's 3 primary things, 3 areas that I want to address. The first one is this idea of diet as some sort of causality or some sort of anti-cancer effect. The second is treatment options. There are many different treatment options available, and many of you have recommended different treatment options. The third is sort of the idea of the skeptical nature of the videos, and also conspiracy-related or conspiracy theory-related ideas regarding cancer and the pharmaceutical industry and things like that. I would encourage you to go ahead and subscribe to this channel. I try to always be encouraging and try to do this with a positive attitude. As you know, I've been diagnosed with an extremely rare stage 4 cancer with a very difficult prognosis and more than likely not a very long-term mortality rate. So I'm doing this out of genuineness. I'm doing this with a pure conscience, and I really have nothing to lose. And so I'm going to say what I want to say. And I don't say that pridefully or arrogantly. I just want you to know that I am approaching all of this sincerely. And hopefully that is something that is still appreciated out there in YouTube land in the internet world today. So let's go ahead and get started. I don't want to spend too much time chewing the cud on this. The first thing is the idea that diet is a cause or can be an anti-cancer cause. Now, there are some that have sprung to the top, as it were, and let me just begin. These are in no particular order, but number one is if you just did a carnivore diet, if you just changed everything you're doing and you go to a carnivore diet, the cancer will go away. Now, in recent years, the carnivore diet, of course, has been made popular by people such as Jordan Peterson. I know that Joe Rogan experimented with it, as well as many, many other people that have become extremely popular on social media and various other outlets. And the carnivore diet is an interesting idea. You know, it's an elimination diet, basically. So people with autoimmune disease, for example, like Jordan Peterson's daughter and Jordan Peterson himself, have had great success with the carnivore diet in maintaining a good level of health. And it's interesting that somebody would come across that. But elimination diets are nothing new. They have been around for a very long time. And for some people, they have been proven effective. Now, of course, I can't speak of any of that as an expert because I have not done the carnivore diet. I've not personally experienced it. And as far as the efficacy in treating cancer, I'm not sure that there's a whole lot out there that really would say that it is a curative for cancer. Secondly, and this is one of my favorite ones, is the idea of fasting, and even fasting combined with ketogenic diet. Of course, many of you have recommended that I research Dr. Thomas Seyfried. I think that's how you say his name. And I want you to know this. I've said this over and over and over again in my videos. I actually have a video going back, I think almost a couple years ago, where I talked about the benefits of ketogenic eating and intermittent fasting. That is exactly how I was eating for 2 years before I was diagnosed with this cancer. Now, one of my favorite people on YouTube is Dr. Eric Berg. I followed his page, continue to follow his page. I believe that most of the information that he offers is extremely helpful in terms of a person approaching their health and having a lifestyle that thrives. I believe that. When I was on the ketogenic diet, which, by the way, I'm not anymore, not aggressively anymore, not as disciplined as I was with ketogenic before. And some of you are going to say, oh, Michael, that's why your cancer is growing. But I was on this diet for 2 years before, hear it again, before I was diagnosed. I was extremely strict. I was intermittent fasting. I was ketogenically eating, and believe me, I was disciplined. I had practically no cheat days. I'm not going to say I didn't have some cheat days, but as far as sugar, refined carbohydrate intake, things like that, I became a well-studied student in this area, and there were many, many benefits. I was lighter than I had ever been weight-wise, had lots of energy, felt really good, and I could do all of that just eating one meal a day. And so, yeah, there are lots of benefits to ketogenic eating and intermittent fasting. I'm not going to deny that, but in terms of this video, I'm going to say, at least for me, anecdotally, ketogenic eating and intermittent fasting was not successful in preventing cancer. And I think we have to be very, very careful when we start making claims that one particular diet could be an anti-cancer agent. Because cancer is a very, very strange thing. It's not the same across the board. Not all cancers are the same. Genomic testing and sequencing, which is something that I've been through and counseled with the experts, shows that cancer, even of the same kind, can behave very differently from patient to patient. And so cancer is not a one-size-fits-all where there's going to be a treatment for everybody across the board. And that pretty much goes for everything I'm going to talk about for the rest of the video. But one thing that keeps coming up is when people say, and this is so irritating, I'm sorry, but it's so irritating when people say, Michael, change your diet, change your diet. The presumption is that I'm going out and I'm eating fast food every single day, that I'm not taking care of myself, that I'm a junk foodie. And look at me. Do I look like a junk foodie? No, I am not 400 pounds walking around. I was at a pizza place the other day, and they had this mac and cheese pizza, and probably the unhealthiest person I've ever seen in my life was sitting there ordering a macaroni and cheese pizza, and it was like disgusting. And I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, like, how unfair that I actually ate healthy for all this time, was diagnosed with cancer. This guy obviously, at least from outside appearances, doesn't take care of himself at all. And I don't know his conditions, but how long are you going to live eating like that? I mean, I totally agree that healthy eating is the way to go. But the presumption that some people have, and again, I know this is the internet, but that, boy, if you just change your diet, change your diet, life is going to go great for you. Well, look, there's not too much to change. As I've said in many of my videos, I eat healthier than probably most of you that are out there. Again, I don't say that arrogantly. It's just the world today does have so much processed garbage, and we consume it because it's fast and easy. It used to be cheap. It's not cheap anymore, but it's what people go to, and it's high in sugar. It's high in carbohydrates and all sorts of things that are just not good for our bodies. And so I do agree, if a person did have cancer and they were eating that way, that changing their diet would be beneficial. If nothing else, it would make them feel better, even if it didn't have any curative aspects in regards to their diet. So that's the first point, is just diet as a causality. Perhaps. I do believe that there are certain things, if you eat and you continue to basically put fuel in your body that is bad fuel, it only makes sense that that would be a causality for other bad things to happen. Now, cancer is a weird animal, and it's hard to know exactly what to say, what causes cancer. There's so many things that could be a causality, and we can't rule out food as being one of those if you did that for a prolonged period of time. But in terms of my case, again, it's very, very difficult to say, oh, Michael, you just weren't eating right, or you just need to change your diet. All right, now the second category has to do with comments regarding different treatment options. First of all, I want you to know I am totally open to different treatment options. I totally, 100% am open to different treatment options. I've heard many of you out there make comments about different medicines and different treatment options. Now, there are two that come up to the top of the list. The first one, again, has to do with a holistic treatment, which again is related to herbs, diet, things like that. And there's been some really different ones. Some people call it natural, some people call it holistic. I've seen everything from someone that said that they just ate grapes. They ate grapes and the cancer went away. Something to do with apricot seeds. I've had people say, stay lighthearted and meditate, read joke books, just laugh a lot, which, boy, that's something that's really easy to do when you've been suffering through cancer treatment, is just to laugh. But, generally speaking, I am a lighthearted person. I try to keep a positive attitude, and part of that is just redeemed life. When you know Christ, you do not have the burdens that the world has if you're abiding in Him. But anyhow, the idea behind holistic treatments, natural treatments, I want you to know this is something that my wife is certainly a lot more into than I am. I don't disagree. Again, in this created world, there are things that are toxic or more toxic for our bodies, and then there are things that are better for our bodies. And so I'm definitely not an anti-different treatment kind of guy. I think that, again, eating healthy, pursuing things that might have some efficacy, even if they don't cure cancer, certainly help you to live a better lifestyle. These things are certainly worth pursuing. And so in terms of the holistic or natural ideas, I do think there's a great amount of merit to that. Again, a lot of that is diet related, but it's also related to treatment and coming alongside treatment. And so, yeah, I don't totally disagree with that. I think some of your comments on that are helpful. But I do not believe that just, again, eating apricot seeds is not going to cure this type of cancer. You say, well, Michael, how can you say that? You haven't tried it. Well, there's a lot of things I haven't tried. Like if someone said, why don't you drink some gasoline or something like that, well, again, I know, hey, Michael, that's not a fair comparison. That's crazy. But there's a lot of things people could say, hey, if you just do this. And at the end of the day, you got to make the decisions yourself. It's your life, what you want to do to your body and what you want to put in your body. Again, holistic treatments can be everything from massages to chiropractor adjustments, which I love. I do have a chiropractor that I love, and I go to him and does a great job. But there are all sorts of things that you could pursue that way that may be beneficial and helpful. Now, here's the biggie, and this is the one that is, in this whole video, probably going to cause the most controversy given the amount of comments that I've had on this, and this has to do with the idea of a drug called Fenbendazole, made very popular by a guy named Joe Tippins, from what I understand. I have researched some of his content. Basically, in the veterinary world, there's a drug that's used to treat parasites, dog dewormer or something like that. And Fenbendazole, and I'll just add a little tag on here too, ivermectin tends to get mixed in with a lot of the comments as well. And the idea behind this, as far as I see it, is that there are many people who believe that Fenbendazole is the cure-all for all cancer. And boy, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know what to say about this. I have done some research, probably 3 to 4 hours of cumulative research between videos and articles and things like that, trying to study up on this idea of Fenbendazole. It was something new that I had heard in the comments from a couple months ago. And there is a study from the National Institute of Health out on this. And basically, the article sums it up saying that it has never been in a trial for humans. There are people who anecdotally have self-injected themselves. And there have been studies on animals and petri dishes with cell cultures. And Fenbendazole has been proven to be somewhat effective in attacking certain protein strains in the petri dishes, and has shown to be effective in the treatment of cancers in animals. And again, anecdotally, some people that have taken it have had success with Fenbendazole. This would not only be off-label, it would be extremely experimental. Now again, I want to reiterate this. I am not opposed to other treatment options, but they need to make sense, and at least for me, personally, what I'm going to put in my body has to have a little bit more demonstration of proof before I would go ahead and do something like that for myself. So, Fenbendazole, maybe it is a cure for certain types of cancer. Again, I got to come back to this. Not all cancers are the same. No matter what it is, you are genetically, people are the same, but they're also different, and the cancers are different. And so you have to be very, very careful. I know some of you would say, well, if you're already at this point, you're a stage 4 cancer patient, you have a bad prognosis, you have a bad expectation of mortality, what does it hurt to try it? And again, who knows? I mean, there's a lot of treatment options for me that would need to be exhausted first before I would consider that. But Fenbendazole is an interesting one. I want to try to have a well-rounded approach and not just deny everything that's out there. But personally, I'm skeptical of it at this point. But you never know. There could be, in research, some alteration of the drug Fenbendazole. There's a lot of bendazole type drugs that are out there that are also proving to be effective against cancer. And so you never know. Is it going to be 5 years? Is it going to be 10 years until we get human trials that are going to show the effectiveness of this against certain types of cancer? We don't know. We'll see. But it is an interesting idea, the idea of Fenbendazole. There's some other ones that are just kind of like off-the-cuff sound wave therapies. You take sound waves and you put them through your body, similar to radiation, but a little bit different. That you can sort of break up the cancer cells in your body. I've heard of one called oxygen infusion therapy, which is interesting. It's been used to treat brain cancer in children and has been proven to be pretty effective. Not in the US, but outside of the US, this treatment has been used. And so there's a lot of things out there that may be worth considering or looking into, but you're always chasing time. And a lot of cancer research is so far behind where we would like it to be. You know, in another 15 years with genomic sequencing, most cancers might actually be able to have a high degree of curative ability to them. But it also depends on the type of cancer and the person themselves that have the cancer, their health, their ability to endure treatments, things like this. And so we'll see in time what a lot of these things produce. Now for me, in my case, there's a natural progression of treatment, and I'll tell you why there's this natural progression of treatment. Here's the normal protocol. So first of all, you have standard chemotherapy. That's what we tried first. I went through 4 rounds of what's called EDP, which is 3 different drugs, etopside, cisplatin, and doxorubicin. And these 3 drugs combined are one of the most aggressive and potent ways to treat the type of cancer that I have, adrenocortical carcinoma. And I went through 4 rounds of extremely hard and extremely intensive chemotherapy. And believe it or not, my blood work is almost perfect after all 4 rounds of that. A lot of people will have heart failure, they'll start to have other organ failure, their blood work will become trash, and I'm good all the way across. The ECGs reveal that my heart is still pumping perfectly. My blood work has come back extremely excellent, probably better than a lot of people that are even healthy. And so all of that is a very good sign that I'm still good and healthy, and my body has the ability to fight. So these are all really good signs. Even though the cancer has grown, I survived 4 rounds of the first standard chemotherapy. So the first thing is standard chemotherapy. Now, like I said, we've switched to a different drug, which is off-label. The drug I'm on, telazolomide, or temozolomide, something like that is how you say it. This is a chemotherapy pill. So instead of being infused, I just take pills at night for 5 days, and then every 28 days we repeat the cycle. There has been one study with people with adrenocortical carcinoma where almost half of them had a positive response rate, whereas standard chemotherapy, the expectation is only about a 20% efficacy rate. And so, again, I can see how someone could get a little bit conspiracy about this when you have a very small study saying that this is more better, more efficacious in treating this cancer than the standard chemotherapy, but it's off-label. This drug is actually used to treat brain cancer primarily and not adrenal cancer. Now in my case, there's a natural progression. Like I said, there is going to be, first off, they're going to want to do standard chemotherapy, and now we're pursuing an off-label. After that, immunotherapy would be an option, gene therapy after that, targeted gene therapy, which is similar to immunotherapy. And then you have a clinical trial, which is going to be along the lines of targeted gene therapy. Now in my case, right now, I have to stay on some form of chemotherapy. Chemotherapy essentially is a shotgun blast to the cancer. Unfortunately, it being a shotgun blast, it not only goes after the cancer, it can go after the healthy tissue in your body as well. And that's the real danger of any chemotherapy. You know this going into it, and so you're trading efficacy for potential other health issues. And this is always the battle that you're playing with yourself, is how am I going to handle it? But this is the way that I have to go about it right now, and I'll tell you why. Because this cancer that I have, adrenal cancer, is hormone secreting. One of the things my cancer does is produces an insane amount of cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone in your body. It's responsible for blood pressure, heart rate, muscle function, brain function, all of these sorts of things. And believe it or not, my cortisol has been about 10 times the normal limit for a very long time. I've been on medication to try to bring it down. It's been extremely difficult to try to bring it down, and so basically the reason I'm saying all of that is because when you have high cortisol, immunotherapy does not work. The stress hormone counteracts any ability for the immunotherapy, that is for your body's natural system, your natural healing system, to function and work well with the immunotherapy. And so right now I'm stuck on chemotherapy options until we can bring the cortisol down low enough to a normal level to where we can pursue immunotherapy and pursue the gene therapies And of course, one of the last options is always surgery. In my case, because it's metastatic, it's fast spreading, and because of the high cortisol levels and the location of the tumors themselves, I have one specifically that is very close to a main artery towards the bottom of my esophagus, top of my stomach, that kind of takes surgery off the table, at least for right now, until we can prove we can shrink the tumors or at least stabilize them to a point where they're comfortable going in and messing around in there. So that's kind of, in terms of different treatment options, everything that's wrapped around that. If you've made it this far in the video, now you are going to be enchanted, delighted, you are going to be overwhelmed by the next thing I'm going to talk about that, and that has to do with some of the most skeptical ideas and conspiracy theories comments that I've received on my YouTube videos. Now, if I was to spend time with every comment that came out, because there's been over 3,000 comments in the last couple months on some of these videos about dealing with cancer, you can only imagine the thickness of the tinfoil hat conspiracies that have been put out on some of my videos. Now, I have a tinfoil hat of my own. I am not necessarily trusting of all government institutions. I am not necessarily trusting of a lot of things. I do not believe in the goodness of man. I believe in the fallenness of man, and I believe that it's a sinful world and that people are corrupt in heart, and only the saving grace of God can change a person internally and give them new life and give them a clear conscience and a pure heart. And so certainly I believe that there is evil in the world. Now, there are many people out there. The comments basically circle around the idea that the medical and pharmaceutical industry as a whole is corrupt, and so you cannot trust them. Michael, why would you go through chemotherapy? Don't you know that it's a multi-billion-dollar industry? They don't care about you or your life. They don't care if you live or die. All this is a money-making scheme, and chemotherapy is never effective. All it does is kill people. Well, okay. I mean, I'm sorry to laugh. Again, I'm not trying to be egotistical about this. I am the one dealing with the cancer. I'm the one dealing with the harsh realities and the weight of eternal reality bearing down on me as I look at the prognosis of my disease. Chemotherapy works for a lot of people, folks. It's horrible. Very few people will come out of chemotherapy unscathed, meaning they don't get some other medical condition as a result of the chemotherapy. It is a double-edged sword, this kind of treatment. Chemotherapy itself is antiquated. This is why they do not make any new chemotherapy drugs. There's no research center in the world that is developing new chemotherapy. Everything now is going to immunotherapy or targeted gene therapy. This is because chemotherapy is awful. It's horrible. And the medical industry knows that, which is why they're switching to different treatment options that don't have as many disadvantages and side effects and are much better at seeking curative treatments for people. But the idea that the entire medical industry as a whole is corrupted is pretty bizarre when you try to put thousands, if not millions of people under the same umbrella and saying that it's one big conspiracy. I think your bunker is a little too deep if that is the perspective that you have. And you might have some personal experience in life, someone that you knew that has girded these views of yours. And I don't disagree about there being sin in the world and there being evil people. That's a given. But putting the entire pharmaceutical and medical industry under that same umbrella, quite honestly, it's ridiculous and it's stupid. I don't know how else to say that. One of the more skeptical things that I see people say, and even my own friends and family members and church people, well-intended of course, because they're trying to be encouraging, and that's how I see these comments primarily, as trying to be encouraging, is when somebody says, "But Michael, you look so healthy. You do not look like somebody that has cancer. I mean, your brain functions well. You're walking around. You seem to be doing okay for somebody that has advanced stage 4 cancer." And this is where I say, you know what? I will look very good in my casket. I will be the best looking corpse you've ever seen in a casket. One of the things about adrenocortical carcinoma, it affects people differently. All cancers affect people differently. Because I have a hormone secreting cancer, I have high cortisol. One of the effects of high cortisol is that you don't ever really feel full, and you can be hungry all the time because your steroid levels are elevated. And so I eat normally. I don't have nausea. I have a beyond healthy appetite. Since getting diagnosed with this cancer, I've been sitting around a lot more because my energy level has been down, and I have been eating more, so that my weight has went up. All of these things make a person appear very healthy. But the fact that I'm hungry and the fact that I have an appetite is actually a bad sign. It means that my hormone levels are too high, that they need to come down. And so if someone says, well, you look healthy, it's actually the opposite. Because of the fact that I'm gaining weight is the fact that I'm unhealthy. And some of this is uncontrollable. Some of it is I just don't know when to quit eating because I don't feel full. But generally speaking, I am healthy. My blood work has come back excellent, as I've said before. Some of the medications I've been on to help with my blood pressure and hormone levels and things like that have been somewhat effective. And so externally, the ability to carry on day to day is, all things considered, pretty good. Again, that's all things considered. I do have some bad days, obviously, where I'm just totally wiped out. The energy level is zero for no expected reason. And then I have other days where I feel like life could almost be normal. But in terms of looking healthy, I just say, what am I supposed to look like? I mean, am I supposed to be rolling around in a wheelchair, 6'3", 120 pounds? I don't know what that always means when someone says, well, you look healthy. Again, I take it as encouragement that people say, look, you're fighting this fight well, and that's how I choose to take it. But I do know that there are people who are skeptical, like, oh, is this guy really sick? And I can tell you, after almost 60 hours sitting in chairs getting infused with chemotherapy, that I am sick. I can tell you after 5 CT scans that continue to show tumors in my body that I'm sick. I can tell you about the daily reminders of pharmacies and doctors' visits and blood draws that I am sick. I do have this disease, and it has not gone away. So appearances can be deceiving, and you yourself might be walking around with cancer and you don't even know it. At least that was the case for me. Okay, lastly, and this is the one that really gets me. This is the idea of the jab. And you all know what I'm talking about when I say the jab. I think at this point in time, we can say the COVID vaccine. And I just got to say this. Look, it was your personal choice if you decided to get vaccinated or you decided not to get vaccinated. Now, here's the truth, guys. I did not receive a COVID vaccine. As a matter of fact, I received some criticism from people in my own circles of friends and church-going members that were questioning why I was not a big masker and why I was not supportive of the vaccine. And I have my own reasons for that. And again, like I said, I believe it's a personal choice whether someone wanted to do that or not. And I don't want to get too deep in the weeds in this. The primary thing that I want to say about this is, folks, is there any evidence out there whatsoever that the vaccine causes adrenocortical carcinoma or any other cancer for that matter? I cannot speak to this. I am not an expert in this. I really don't have any opinion to offer because I did not get the jab. And so people are always looking for causality and they're always looking for something to blame. But in my mind, this is extremely conspiracy-oriented thinking. And quite honestly, I will say it again, it's stupid, guys. It's just stupid to think that the COVID vaccine would cause certain cancers, especially if you've been eating healthy and doing everything else. Not to say that with some people, certainly it's caused extreme damage possibly, but I just cannot speak to that. All I can tell you is I did not get the jab. So, whatever truths or conspiracies exist around the jab, they're not related to me. Now lastly, and super lastly, I never want to leave a video without reminding us of the true eternal hope that exists in Jesus. And it is at this point, if you've watched up to this point, many of you will be tempted just to check out, and that's fine if that's what you want to do. But I just want to read from 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 1 through 8. It says this, "For we know that if the earthly tent, which is our house, is torn down, we have a building from God, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. For indeed, in this house we groan, longing to be clothed with our dwelling from heaven. Inasmuch as we, having put it on, will not be found naked. For indeed, while we are in this tent, we groan, being burdened, because we do not want to be unclothed, but to be clothed, so that what is mortal will be swallowed up by life. Now he who prepared us for this very purpose is God, who gave to us the Spirit as a pledge. Therefore, being always of good courage, and knowing that while we are at home in the body, we are absent from the Lord, for we walk by faith, not by sight. We are of good courage, I say, and prefer rather to be absent from the body and to be at home with the Lord." One of the difficult things about being diagnosed with any disease, sickness, or cancer is that it can become all-consuming in our lives. And people without an understanding of their eternal destiny will make cancer and sickness, disease, whatever it is, their entire identity. I live with an expectation, like this scripture says, that mortality will be swallowed up by life. That is, the life that is abundant in eternity is going to be so glorious that any idea of death is going to be completely swallowed up by it. And I just love the way that the scripture explains that eternal reality. This body, my body, your body, it is meant to decay. The effects of the sin of the world are upon us, and we will not live forever. You do not know when your day is going to come. One of the things I'm very thankful for is the fact that God has given me time, because there are so many people that don't get time. Their life just ends just like that, and they never see it coming, whether that be an accident or some unforeseen circumstance of death. I have a stage 4 cancer with a very bad prognosis and a very low mortality rate. And I get time. I get time with my wife, with my children. I get time to be a positive influence for those that are closest to me. And I'm thankful for that. But I also understand that even if this cancer were to be somehow cured, and there was therapies that worked, and there was surgery that could remove this, and I could live another 50 years, even then, eternity is still coming. Even then, I still long to be clothed with an eternal dwelling, not made with human hands, that cannot perish. I wonder, do you have this understanding of your eternal reality? Has Christ come to abide in you? Has he revealed himself to you and called you to himself? If he has, you already know that. You've been redeemed. You are a new creation. The old things have passed away, the new have come, and you understand this. But look, if you haven't, and you yourself are battling a disease or a cancer or whatever it is, understand this: nothing is by accident. It may be that this very scripture has spoken to you in some way, and the Lord is calling you. It's not my job to save people. I can't do that. Only the Lord through his Spirit can do that and convince you of those things. But we need to live for a greater eternal hope. That is where real peace and real comfort come from. Not from trying to find answers to solutions that are too big for us. Not from some treatment, not from living just a little bit longer. The real cure for cancer, the real treatment, is the power of the Holy Spirit in changing and redeeming lives. So guys, that's all I'm going to say about that. It's a little bit longer video. I hope that you've made it this far. If you have and you appreciate the content, go ahead and subscribe. Follow along. I've been doing more content like this about cancer stuff lately, but also I'm doing more content on the woodworking. As you can see, I'm sitting in a woodworking shop. And this is where most of my life has been. And so There's a lot to offer here, I think, with this life that is left. I want to try to be here to be an encouragement to you and to help support you, and hopefully you all out there continuing to pray and support me. So until next time, guys, God bless you all, and we'll see you the next time.